Welcome to Salento with love and welcome to episode 9 of remote refurbishing. I'm just walking towards the site and we're just about to step in, and incredible things have started to happen. You know, it just makes a difference. You know, we've seen the floor going from the rubble to a smooth walkable, but now it's getting to that stage where the walls are starting to take shape. So let's go in and see what's happening. So it's amazing how things happen very, very quickly when you're on a building site. People often say to me, Davide, how long does it take for this to happen? How long does it take for that to happen? Well, it takes the time to get the people on site. And wow, there is a lot of activities here. So first of all the materials are here, and there was a lot of material downstairs. So today, it's not like the old days that they used to mix a lot of sand and cement. There are a lot of this really higher end products that you can buy, which they're already combined, and obviously they give a much better result. And especially when you're working with properties that are ancient and you want to make sure that you don't have anything coming through, then using some materials like this versus the standard sand and cement that they used to use, it's very important. So let's see what they're up to. Mixers, Michele, tutto bene?
Tutto bene, tutto bene.
Senti, questo materiale che stai mischiando, before we go and speak to the man over there because he's the master, but questo materiale che stai mischiando?
Questa è malta nera, serve per ingrossare un po' il muro.
Quindi sarebbe la prima mano che si dà prima. So this is a black mix, which is almost like a cement, which is the first coat that you give, especially when you have the walls being so rough and you need to give a little bit of structure. Quindi questa malta nera tra l'altro dà pure un po' di struttura al muro, immagino, no?
Sì, sì.
È vero? No, fra poco vengo a parlare col maestro. So I get the master at the back answering the questions. I'm going to go and talk to him in a minute. But so this first material, this FR100, it's specifically used to go onto walls which are pretty rough, and so they need a little bit of structure before then the fine material is going to go. Here we are obviously have discussed already which walls they will have the stone exposed and cleaned up, and the joints are going to be all nicely finished, and majority of the walls obviously they do need plaster because otherwise there's a little bit too much stone, but also you have a lot of crumbling happening, and also you need to give a little bit of structure back to the actual stone walls. So let's see what's happening in here.
Si rovinava l'obiettivo, poi non è colpa mia,
Vai. So here in this space, actually, we've got Pietro. Pietro is what you would call a real intonacatore in Italian. Giusto? Intonacatore. Or a plasterer, because plaster in Italian, or what goes over the walls, is called intonaco. So here you've actually seen him working. Quindi Pietro, prima di tutto, grazie.
Prego.
Poi alla fine come sarà?
Dipende cosa vogliamo fare di finitura. C'è la liscia e c'è la fracassata.
Sì.
Quella ruvida, diciamo.
Sì.
Qua sicuramente faremo quella ruvida.
So
per
just
lasciare una cosa uniforme, antichizzata.
So I just asked him, you know, what's going to be the finished product, and he said, well, you can do a smooth or you could do that bumpy, rough, which is what's going to happen here, because we really want to try to give back that old element. Quindi così sembrerà un po' più antica, ma sarà anche un po' ondulata, giusto?
Sì. Diciamo tipo intonaco vecchio si usava una volta.
E come si faceva l'intonaco vecchio di una volta? Tu lo sai fare? I've just asked him, you know, how do they used to make the old one, you know, the one that has been taken off here?
Con le mani lavoravano.
con le mani.
Non usavano I fratelli.
So they used to work with the hands before. They used to throw it on the walls. Quindi la buttavano sulle mani.
Con le mani, e poi con le mani la spalmavano e venivano tutte quelle...
E poi usavano il legno, immagino, no? Usavano
sì, sicuramente, un po' di legno, giusto per addrizzare, diciamo, qualcosa, uniformare qualcosa.
So the reason why it was all uneven in the old days, which is beautiful really, is because they didn't have the tools that we have today. They didn't have a spirit level, and so they were just throwing the plaster on and then using the hands and then a piece of wood to straighten it, and that's why we have all this uneven. Quanto tempo pensi per intonacare questa casa?
Un paio di settimane se ne vanno.
About 2 weeks work just to plaster and a little bit more. And a little bit more, he was just saying, just to plaster it all. Quindi questa prima fase che adesso vedremo in questi prossimi video sarà questa malta nera.
Questa adesso poi la cerchiamo di togliere tutte queste cose che si vedono per uniformarla un po', per ondularla, uniformarla un pochettino e poi fare l'altra mano
che segue sempre
come va il muro.
E questa malta nera va a consolidare pure il muro, no? Sì. Che ha bisogno di struttura, no?
Sì.
So the first phase is this black cement. Questa c'ha pure la fibra all'interno, no? È un cemento fibrato, giusto? Sì. So this is the first part that goes in while Michele is still creating mixes here. It doesn't stop. And so this gives structure, but also you can see how it's all uneven. And so once this dries, it will get cleaned off, and then the new one or the white stuff goes over the top, and following this unevenness, you see, it's been done on purpose. If you wanted to do absolutely straight line, it could do straight line, but we really want to give that old beautiful look with the soft lights. Anyway, I'm not going to go no more with what's going to happen. I just love watching him doing this. It's like an art. And just one little thing, you know, in this process, I mean, you've got all these electrical cables, but just the conduit at the moment. And so I've just asked Pietro, you know, why the cables are not there. And somebody did ask me the question. But you can imagine, you know, now all the cables coming out of that, because obviously they will have to leave them a lot longer. So you can imagine how nagging it would be to roll them up, put them back, they'll fall off. And plus they'll be all dirty, all full of muck. So the running of the cables happens after everything is finished. So it's important again to know which ones are the right steps. This doesn't only guarantees a very good job at the end, but allows you to do it at a speed that can facilitate all the other people that come in the next stages. Incredible how quickly things change shape. So I'm just on site, and these guys are working so well. Fantastic. So walls have been given a bit of structure. Well, this is going to be the kitchen area that's coming together. And actually, I've had somebody asking, say, oh, why are you covering the stone? Well, stone is meant to be covered. I know that you'll like it, but you're going to be careful as well, you know, by leaving a lot of the stone exposed. If it was built to be exposed, then obviously we are going to leave it exposed. Or if it is special, then it's worth leaving it exposed. But leaving stone exposed, it also means that you're going to have a huge amount of dust coming through. And it's true that you can treat it. But you see, when you look at this stone, it's full of holes and gaps. And can you imagine how you're gonna make that water resistant? How are you going to make that dust free? How are you going to get into all these little crannies in here? It's going to be completely impossible. So you imagine you're always going to get dust on your furniture, you're going to get dust on the floor. So yes, answering some of your questions is nice, leaving some of the stone, but some of the stone. And in this property, there's going to be some of the key pieces of the building are going to be left with the stone exposed. Anyway, I hope that answers that. I'm just coming through here to see what they're up to. Oh, the bathroom. It's Salvatore, buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Oh, we have Salvatore here. Questa è la doccia?
La doccia, stiamo ripristinando la doccia,
E
stiamo
serve un pochettino di cemento per portarla a filo, no?
Certo, ma tanto cemento.
But tanto cemento. It's actually working inside the shower area, but the amount of sand and cement there is needed just to straighten these walls is absolutely incredible. And then we'll step inside this room where we got Pietro and Michele working, and they've got about another week to finish this black, what they call the black first, before we then get to the fine smooth finish. Oh wow, and then look at this room, how it's taken shape. Amazing. And then we've decided which area we're going to leave exposed. So you've got to wait to the end to see which areas we're going to leave exposed. So when you're plastering, for example, an area such as the bathroom, it's very important to get your walls straight. Otherwise you can imagine what's going to happen with the tiling. So this beading, these metal beads are used to actually set the level in which then the plastering. So what they've done in this particular space, for example, they've set all the beadings and then they're going to plaster in between, and that's going to give them the straight edge or the straight line for tiling on top of that. And it's interesting, I mean, you can see how much material is actually used. If you look at the thickness that you have here, it's incredible. It's probably more like 2.5 inches, 3 inches, because the walls are all old and broken. And so it's really important to put them straight, but also put all this plaster back on, this sand and cement, which in theory as well is consolidating and giving strength back to the wall. In many other countries, potentially they would just use a system called dot and dab, where they will put some glue on the back of some boards and they would just stick them to the wall, put it level, but behind it will be all wall empty and with no structure to it. So it's amazing to see how in Italy they still use some very, very old techniques when it comes to plastering. And so we are at the end of episode 9 of remote refurbishing. And it looks black. And we've gone from a rubble floor, broken up walls, to a smooth surface. Now it's taken a few weeks really, because this level of work needs to be done by hand. Being in the centro storico, like I have said in some of my previous videos, represents some challenges. Bringing big machinery becomes a little bit of an issue. If you're working on the centro storico and on the first floor, then you have a little bit more of an issue. So it's been amazing to see these guys, Pietro and the team, working under the supervision of the Gianturco family, putting the plaster on by hand, mixing it and putting it by hand. Also, that makes a difference from the pumps that sprays it in, because they can cover the different areas and making sure that the grip, it's there and is going to last. Now, more than 10 tons, yes, 10 tons of this material is being applied to the walls. And I know that through the course of these videos, you've seen the stone disappearing behind the plaster. And some of you think, oh, wow, that stone was beautiful. But the stone is used to put the walls together, and the plaster is used to keep the stone together. So it's fine to keep some areas exposed when you're doing a refurb, but be careful about how much area you leave exposed. So at the end of episode 9, what can we say? Well, it's been amazing seeing this coming together and becoming a little smoother. Episode 10, well, it's going to be refined. We're going to see the final finish of plaster, the final coat of plaster going on before the second fixing of plumbers and electricians and everything else that will happen. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode 9. Subscribe to the channel, press the little bell. I hope you're getting excited about your own project wherever it is in the world, and stay safe wherever you are.